Budgets and accounting in Washington are always a mystifying thing to me. Generally, over the past 8 years, and as I've watched Congress for the last couple of decades, my colleagues on the other side argue that when we are cutting things, it's generally because the amount of the increase is not what they expected or they desired, and that's a cut, which, in fact, that's been an increase. Well, today, the argument is that this is not really a cut, when in fact, it is a cut. It's $9 billion last year appropriated. This year it's $7.8 billion. That's a $1.2 billion cut, as the math that I learned in high school would say. So this is a cut, and we can't deny that. And what we're cutting is, I believe, essential to the defense of America. We have today, Secretary Gates is in favor of cutting missile defense, and last year he wasn't. This is a political document. This is a budgetary. This is about dollars and cents. And when an administration has a different political ideology, they've decided that they need to cut something, and this is where the cuts, and they'll try to rationalize it any way they want to. And they'll base it on what they think the threats are, which, as we look back in our history, our intelligence community, which includes defense intelligence, has, in many cases, done a poor job. They didn't predict that the North Koreans were going to invade South Korea in the 50s. They didn't predict, or the assessment was that the Berlin Wall was not going to fall. They didn't realize what 9/11 was going to occur. And most recently, nobody knew in the intelligence community that Russia was going to invade Georgia. So our history of trying to predict what our enemies do has not been a very good track record. And here, once again, even the average American can watch television and can see what the North Koreans did just a couple of weeks ago. They detonated a nuclear device. They're shooting missiles into the ocean. The Iranians, we just saw, it appears, and I think as the weeks go on, we're going to see that the Iranian election was stolen by a president who wants to develop nuclear weapons. So it's very clear to me, I think it's very clear to the American people as they listen to this debate, that we are in a dangerous situation. We need to develop our our missile capabilities to defend ourselves in the future. And it's not perfect now, but if it's 61% today, my guess is next year it'll be 70% accurate, and it'll continue to get better so that America is safer. So I think this amendment is wise. I support it. But I'd also like to remind my colleagues, because I've heard a lot on the other side of the aisle here today, 2 years ago or so, they would say the Secretary of Defense is wrong, our military leaders are wrong, and today they're saying we ought to be listening to our military leaders. And I agree we should listen to them, but I want to quote from a speech that was given in 1997 by who I believe is one of the great defenders of the American military, and I read a little bit from his speech. He made a series of speeches making a simple point, and I'm quoting, "Congress is responsible for ensuring that the U.S. Armed Forces are prepared to preserve and protect the security of the United States. Let me emphasize the key phrase in this statement, Congress is responsible. Under the Constitution, it's the duty of Congress, not the President, let alone the Secretary of Defense or the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who are not constitutional officers, to determine the size of the armed forces. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, which lists the powers of Congress, makes it clear." And I'm continuing to quote, "It falls to Congress, therefore, to ensure that our military strength is adequate to defend our nation and our national interest." And that came from a speech, a great speech from our chairman, January 7th, 1997. And what he said 12 years ago, or 12 years ago, still holds true today. It's up to us here in Congress. We can take advice from our military leaders, but as I said, the American people can turn on the television. They can watch what the North Koreans are doing. They can watch who is going to be or continue to be the president of Iran, and they know that there is a great danger out there. So I stand for what the chairman said 12 years ago. It's up to us. This amendment's the right thing to do. Let's put back the money. Let's make sure we continue to develop and deploy our missile defense for this country.